Thank you, Sophia. It's a real pleasure. They are really low compared to anywhere else in the country. Let's compare Auckland with the rest of the country. Two other cities closest to Auckland that are growing at almost the same pace as Auckland. Hamilton, the rates are going up by 9.5% this year. In Tauranga by 9.7%. So here are our rates in Auckland being held to probably a quarter of what two other comparable cities are putting their rates up. Well, I think you've got to see it against what the overall rate of inflation is. And for our core operating costs for council, we're keeping our core operating costs at around about, maybe just a bit lower than the overall rate of inflation. Where are the big costs coming? They're coming because we're having to build a whole lot more assets. You know, new heavy rail, light rail, busways, new roads servicing new subdivisions. And the costs that are going up for Auckland Council are the costs of the interest rate to pay for the money that we have to borrow to pay for infrastructure, and the cost of depreciation, because we are depreciating our assets and we have to put money aside for the renewal of those assets over a long period of time. Well, I think if you look over if you take a 5-year period, house prices, the value of your properties have probably been increasing on average by 10 or 12%, and we're talking about rate increases, general overall rate increases of 2.5%. Now, nobody wants to have any increase in their prices, but everybody knows that there is always inflation, and there are inflation in our construction costs. The construction price index is going up by about 7 or 8% a year. And when we're building infrastructure, then that's the rate at which the cost of infrastructure is going up. So I think most people will look at what council's doing and saying 2.5% average general rate increases, whoa, that's good compared to the rest of the country, and that's good compared to the extra costs that council is having to meet and having to build all these new water infrastructure, housing infrastructure, transport infrastructure. I think most Aucklanders feel, by comparison to anywhere else in the country, they're getting a pretty good deal. If you look at the two targeted rate increases, one is to improve our water quality, because when you take your kids to the beach, you want them to be able to swim safely. You don't want to see the kauri trees die out in New Zealand, in Auckland, because we haven't protected them. You want to see our environment protected. People feel that that the money is being spent on things that they support. That's what our submissions are coming back and showing us. But the combined cost of the two targeted rates will in fact be less than the interim transport levy that is coming off your rates. So the $114 that you're paying each year for an interim transport levy, that finishes on the 30th of June. And the cost of that is probably greater than the two targeted rates combined. So the net increase in rates for people actually will be very reasonable this year. I think, again, everybody understands why there needs to be a regional petrol tax. We are adding hundreds of extra cars a week to our roads. When you and I try to come into work in the morning, it takes longer every day. There's more cars. If we don't invest in infrastructure, this whole city will become gridlocked, and we can't afford for that to happen. That costs you right now. The cost of congestion is probably up to $2 billion a year in lost productivity. The cost to you and me being stuck in the traffic all the time is that we lose quality time with our families and doing the things that we'd rather do than being stuck on the motorway and not being able to get through the traffic. So if I ask people this question, do you want us to raise another $1.5 billion, which the regional petrol tax will over 10 years, and put it into transport infrastructure to stop gridlock, or should we do nothing and allow gridlock to happen? I know what people are telling me. No, you've got to get on and do the job. And can we expect people in the rest of New Zealand to pay for our transport? No, we can expect the government to give us back some of the tax that we're paying, and I'm pushing government to do that, but we have to make some contribution to solve our own problems ourselves. But every dollar that you pay in that regional fuel tax will go back into transport infrastructure, every dollar. So for the next 10 years, we have to spend $27 billion on transport in Auckland, $27 billion. Now, where is that going to go? It's going to increase busways. So if you're on the North Shore, you know how good the busway is, but we need to take the busway much further up into Albany and onto Orewa. We need to create a new busway out to East Auckland. It's called the Amity Busway to Pakuranga and to Botany. We need to have light rail, because you go to any big city in the world, they've got a mass transit system. Why light rail? Because there's so many buses on the road now, we're getting bus congestion. We need more heavy rail and we need more electrification. We need better roads, and we need 40% of our budget is spent on just maintaining the roads that we have. So there's a lot of things that have to be done, but we can only do them if we have the revenue to make sure we can improve our transport so that it's easier for you and me and everybody watching this program to move around our city. And I need the cooperation of the public to help us track down those people. So if you see people, whether it's individuals or companies, dumping their waste on our public parks and roadways, let council know, and if you can, get a number plate, because if we get the evidence, we will prosecute. And I hope we can bring some really serious fines down on those that are dumping their rubbish, so that you and I as ratepayers have to pay to clean up their mess. That's their responsibility. They shouldn't be doing it. We go through about 700 million plastic bags a year in Auckland alone. 700 million. And that plastic, when it's put in a landfill, takes 50, 60, 70 years to degrade. So one of the things that we're looking at doing, and now the big supermarket chains are agreeing with us, they didn't a year ago, take along a reusable bag, a cloth bag, instead of getting 10 plastic bags every time you go shopping. In London, when they put a 10 cents a bag price on the plastic bags, it cut the use by 80%. 80%. So we've got to do things differently today. We understand in New Zealand and right around the world that we have to have a sustainable environment, and we can't just create more and more waste and then dump it back into the environment. We know how much damage that plastics are doing to our waterways, to our bird life, to our fish life. So we've got to change the way we do things, and we've got to become more environmentally sensitive. And we're working with government to make sure that there are better ways for people to live than simply creating more and more waste, and making sure that those people that dump their waste illegally, that they are held accountable for what they're doing. Thank you very much, and it's really important in what we invest in our city for the next 10 years. So we're proposing to clean up our waterways. Every time it rains, our wastewater overflows into our harbours and onto our beaches. We need more investment. That's why we've got a targeted rate on water quality. We need to have our regional fuel tax so we can create more transport infrastructure so that we can get around our city. Look, we've got a lot of challenges to face, but just last week, the Mercer survey internationally found that Auckland had the third best quality of living of any city in the world. We should be proud of that, but we do have to invest more in infrastructure to maintain that quality of life and to maintain the ease of doing business in our city. So thank you very much. Please make sure that you participate in the discussions that are taking place, and we will try to build a better city for you and your families to enjoy. Share, share.